The future of Obamacare. That's what I'd like to talk about today. Increasingly, anyone who doesn't have to is not enrolling in the Obamacare exchanges. In other words, anyone who has a health insurance policy is hanging on to it for dear life and not going into the exchanges. The only ones going into the exchanges are those who absolutely have to. And this is a reinforcing, self-reinforcing trend. Because what's going to happen is that the more able-bodied, young, and regular healthy people stay on their current policies, the more the only ones that are going to be enrolling in Obamacare are going to be high-cost patients, which means the premiums for Obamacare are going to skyrocket. The current estimates that they have are based on a fairly routine cut of population. But if they become high-risk pools, which it looks like they're becoming, the premiums go higher, fewer people enroll, only sick people enroll, and the premiums keep going up, and it becomes a vicious circle. Others call it a death spiral, which is really true in terms of Obamacare. Obama's hope was that he could cancel the policies of tens and tens of millions of Americans and force them into the exchanges, thereby putting some healthy people in there to lower the rates. They still would be a lot higher than those folks are used to paying, but too bad, their old policies would have been canceled. But now that politicians on both sides of the aisle are making him live up to his campaign promise, oft stated that you could keep your policy as it is if you wanted to, he's no longer able to do that. Now, Obama right now has retreated and saying for self-insured and small employers, you can keep your policy for another year. But the House passed legislation saying that you could keep it permanently if the insurance companies agreed, and the Senate is going to consider the Landrieu bill, and some variant of that is going to pass, saying you can keep it permanently and the insurance companies have to continue to cover you. Well, once that happens, Obamacare is dead, because everybody is going to stay with their current policies and their current insurers. Don't forget, before this happened, 85% of Americans told pollsters they were perfectly happy with the insurance they had. So that 85% is going to sit right there, and the only ones that will go into Obamacare are the high-risk patients. And the premiums are going to become higher, and that will reinforce this circle that we're speaking of. Now, I didn't know this until today. Apparently, and I know a lot about healthcare, apparently 35 states have assigned risk pools already for health insurance. People who are so sick and so needy that they can't be insured by the regular system. And the insurance companies pool their revenues, and the states contribute to it. And 200,000 people in 35 states are now in such a pool. And the feds have another 100,000. So 300,000 people are protected by these pools. Their average medical costs each year are $11,000, and some, of course, are much higher than that. Well, Obamacare has 106,000 already. So increasingly, Obamacare is going to become a high-risk pool. And that's very close to the Republican proposal. The Republicans proposed that there be a high-risk pool, that it be subsidized by the federal government. They allocated $25 billion for it in their alternative to Obamacare. And that's pretty much what's going to happen, and it's not a bad outcome. It means we'll keep the insurance we have. Most Americans won't be affected. But a small number of people who have very high medical bills are going to be in an assigned risk pool, protected, and their bills will be paid for them. And they'll be paid by tax revenues, which is appropriate. So that, I think, is the ultimate outcome of what's going on with Obamacare. Now, once that happens, the superstructure, this whole administrative behemoth that's been created to administer a program for 100 million people, is going to shrink to one for 1 million or less. And it'll all come crashing down. It'll piece by piece be repealed. Then the only real permanent effect of Obamacare, the two effects, will be one, the expansion of Medicaid, which has created a horrible burden on states for future tax revenue that's going to really hit them in 6 years when the federal enhanced subsidies roll back. And secondly, the restrictions on Medicare imposed by the Payment Advisory Board, where they try to restrict the care that's available to people in an effort to contain the cost. But those are problems we can deal with over time. But I think we're really looking now at a point where we can see the end stage of Obamacare. Thanks for watching.